What's up, everybody? Welcome to Hear Me Out, a space committed to having relevant and meaningful conversations. Now, I truly believe in the power of testimony, and I think in order to tap into that, we all need to practice being a little bit more quick to listen and slow to speak. 2020 has been tough. Let's not beat around the bush. It's been a hard year. From Kobe Bryant's tragic passing to everything happening worldwide with COVID and people being stuck at home and a lot of people losing loved ones and friends, to now everything with racial inequality and racism and police brutality and people losing their lives to senseless acts. And I've had enough, to be honest. I've had enough of people being quicker to give their perspective and point of view instead of just being quiet and listening. And so here we are, hear me out. And we believe that engagement empowers empathy. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to engage. I think empathy is something, if we're going to strive to have more of something, empathy should be that thing, especially in a time like this. And so I hope you enjoy these conversations. Get ready. We're bringing on Jaylon Smith right now for episode 1 of Hear Me Out. I'm your host, Drew Tranquil, and I hope you guys enjoy. Hope you guys are blessed by this.
What's going on, everybody? Joined by current Dallas Cowboys Pro Bowl linebacker Jaylon Smith. Honestly, just a good friend of mine, Fort Wayne native. Serial entrepreneur. I mean, the resume speaks for itself, but I think what we're aiming for here is just to touch at the human level. There's been a lot going on, Smooth. Right now, it's hard to talk about. It's been weighing on my spirit and mind a lot, and I'm just interested, I guess, to hear, your initial thoughts on everything going on. We have the COVID, the George Floyd, and just everything going on. Like, where's your head at? Like, what's going on in Jaylon's mind right
now? I believe in this world that we live in, this country in America. There's a lot of awakening that's occurring. To really just about foundations of this country and how everyone even got over here and over to where we call the United States. And the death and killing of George Floyd is just a real millennial visualization of everyday tactics that occurs in this world. With white supremacy and just the overall picture and theme of racism. If you look at racism, this country in America was founded on racism. Blacks were brought over here as slaves, and we couldn't even identify ourselves as human. When you check your identification box, blacks, when this all began, weren't able to identify themselves as human beings. So there was never an intention for black people to have equality, in this country that we live in from the beginning. Now we're at a point where there's a little more awareness, and a lot of people are trying to break that mold of what our country was founded on. And I think in order for that to happen, there has to be an education process to this component where we understand what exactly happened in the past, and not just the current Black African Americans, but everyone as a whole. Even white Americans whose elders were a part of imposing this will on us. I think the lack of education for white people, you can unconsciously catch yourself doing racist acts because you don't know, or because of a conditioning of how you guys were raised. And it's a lot of that is not your fault. It's just you don't know what you don't know, and we were never taught. So I think it's important that that we start to have these conversations, man. So I'm thanking you from the bottom of my heart, man, for even reaching out to me to have these type of conversations. Well,
I mean, we've been teammates and friends for a while now, and in the locker room, it's just like you go out on the field and you ball, and it doesn't really matter, the color of your skin, and I'm just used to that, and so like it's a little bit of a I think why my heart is broken so much is I'm like, man, like this stuff really like exists like this. Like he really put a knee on the man's throat for 8.5 minutes. And, for me, I think a little bit of guilt on my end is like, I feel like we as, white men and women have been passive on having the conversations and just assumed that, hey, we're past that. We're past that point. And you bring up a great thing of like education. I'm interested, like, when you were going through school and being taught, what you were being taught, was it in any way like different than the stories you were hearing from family and people in the community? Like, are we missing the mark in terms of what obviously we're teaching our kids in school?
A lot of information I found out, I had to seek it. Because there's things I learned about that even my parents didn't know. And even down the line, your grandparents maybe just didn't want to expose to myself, of complications and racism and Jim Crow laws and just everything that my family experienced. Through my experiences throughout, this day, understanding, having them conversations with my dad and him talking to me about how to deal with the police if I get pulled over. And, making sure whenever I'm driving that my wallet is visible prior to me even, putting the car in drive, to make sure that if something were to happen, I don't even have to flinch at, an officer thinking that it's something otherwise.
Because when I go to driver's ed, they're telling me how to parallel park. My parents aren't telling me, this, like it was never an issue.
And it's, and that's the thing to where it's, if, as a black person, myself, and as a white man, yourself, for us to never have these conversations, it's hard to really connect all the way, to a human being until you can get down to that T. So that's why I'm just thankful that it's happened, that it's beginning to happen now. And you just got to kind of take it for what it is. But the fact of the matter is there's a lot of things that, my parents had to teach me and things that I had to worry about that just quite frankly, because of the color of my skin, and had nothing to do with my character. But you talk about the education system and me growing up and going to these elementary schools, both private and both public and private. And on the topic of history, I never really got a chance to understand about how the Black community and how Black Americans contributed to this world. Never learned much about all the inventions that we created that were stolen by white slave owners and white, just by white privilege and white supremacy. story. You know, we learned about, you know, the Martin Luther King story and the Harriet Tubman, a little bit about Frederick Douglass, but not in the light of what was really going on in the world. You know what I'm saying? So it's just so much, you know, we never learned about Black Wall Street in elementary and in middle school. We never talked about how that occurred and how Black businesses were thriving. And, you know, we had a Black History Month, but it was basic stuff that white America allowed us to know about, you know?
The things that were acceptable.
The things that were acceptable, and the stories had to be told the way that they set them up for them to be told, if that makes sense. That's the biggest part that I am just really excited about, being able to learn and really share this hidden knowledge and hidden history of our country and our people. I think the more Black people can know that, man, we actually invented this. We actually created this. We actually provided some real value to, you know, what this country is to this day. It'll allow that just throughout your subconscious mind of, okay, I can be something, you know? So that's really what was on my heart. That's why I told you I kind of wanted to talk about just the whole education component, because I think it can be crucial to our ultimate goal of accomplishing equality.
A lot of people talk too, like, you're just making me think about this, like just implicit bias. I think this is exactly what you're talking about. Just this idea of how we've socially constructed what the Black man or woman is in America. And I guess what you're talking about a little bit is like repatterning those ways of thinking. Like when you were growing up, like, you know, you said like educating yourself, especially lately, but like when you were growing up, you know, people talk all the time. It's like, you know, I've heard stories countless, you know, from my teammates. Like, you know, for me, you know, I thought sports was the only way I could make it. And now here you are, you know, you made it in sports, but you're also seem to be trying to educate people through your Minority Entrepreneurship Institute. Like, hey man, like we can do this too. And so I'm interested, like the why, I guess, behind that. Is it all going back to like this repatterning of thinking?
Yeah. A brainwashing into training Blacks to believe that, you know, being an entrepreneur is difficult, or learning about being able to understand the stock market is difficult, or being able to, it was like a created fear that was kind of instilled into us, and to think, you know, putting us into the box of, okay, well, we know we're athletic we're athletic as heck, so we can, you know, we can play ball. So understanding those type of ways, it was just like, man, this is my only way out. And over the years, just being able to learn and grow and understand that, okay, I can read. It's not that hard to learn how to read a spreadsheet, or to create a budget, or to, you know what I mean? Things that weren't taught in our households, you know what I'm saying? Really putting together and having a financial plan. You know what I mean? There's a lot of black people in this world that don't understand those concepts. And it all has to do with the conditioning and things that, you know, the way that we wanted the world to operate. But it's guys like yourself and myself and others that understand that this is a problem and it must change. You know, about how I started the Minority Entrepreneurship Institute to help, you know, close the economic and educational gap that exists in this world today. You know, for me, it's so much more than being able to provide financial funding, but also trying to help people develop, and put together the right infrastructures and having mentorship to be able to guide and ask questions. We have to see minority companies succeed in this world, because that's how we can build that equality and that balance that we're all talking about having.
That's good. I heard, I guess as we kind of close out here, but I heard somebody I follow say last night, is there a place where we can get to where we're slower to give our point of view and quicker to hear the pain of someone else? And I feel like that really hit me, because I feel like that's the junction point we're at right now in America. It's like, will history continue to repeat itself? We had Rodney King. We have George Floyd. It's like, I wasn't alive for those, that event, but all these like protesting constantly, as a result of like police brutality. And there's so many different issues to address, and my head and heart has just been spinning. But can we come to a place where we just like listen and maybe repattern our minds to hearing each other and empathizing and trying to put ourselves in the shoes of one another? And so I certainly appreciate you coming on and chatting it up a little bit. And certainly we'll be on the lookout for the amazing things MEI is doing and all the things you're doing. But just as a friend, like, thanks for coming and sharing with me and sharing with others, Jaylon.
Much love, man. Keep being great, bro. I'm proud of you. Tell your wife and your family I said hello. And let's get a workout in soon, man. Some time.
Get it. I'll be back in the fort July 2nd through the 7th. So I don't know what you're doing for the
okay.
4th.
We'll link up. We'll link up.
All right, smooth. We'll see you.
All right, boss. Peace.
Bye.